Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners, to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. It is a Thursday edition of the show, our last of the week, so we have a spicy topic to talk about on today's show. We will discuss, has Baker Mayfield become a top 5 quarterback? He had a ball-in season by every single metric you can look at. Baker was also robbed of Comeback Player of the Year last season. He was robbed of a Pro Bowl nomination this season. I know he's an alternate, but he should have been in the top 3. Will he be slighted when it comes to making the top 5 of quarterbacks in the league? We're going to go through a ranking of all of the quarterbacks in the NFL, at least the starting NFL quarterbacks, get into a bunch of other Bucs news, and of course, get to questions and comments from you, the Pewter people, and super chats. And if you want to rank the quarterbacks as well, please feel free to do so. We will put that on the screen as well. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me, my fellow co-host of the Pewter Report podcast, Adam Slavon. Adam, how we doing? What's shaking?
Matt, we're doing great, and talk about a spicy topic, and really a continuation of yesterday and going over the top Bucs players. I mean, our list, you can check them out, but we had Baker pretty high, and just kind of talking about how he compares to the rest of the league. I mean, the season that he had really shot up the rankings, because I remember having this discussion last year, right? And he was in the middle of the pack. Now we're having a discussion of whether he's a top 5 quarterback. So fittingly, I'm wearing my Tampa Bay shirt because
Nice.
This is going to be a great conversation, and looking forward to having it with you.
Yes, going to be a great show. We'll get a lot of interaction from the commenters as well, like Mia San Mia, who says, "Hi, Matt," and "Hi, Adam," with the hello signature for both. And by the way, right off the bat, actually earlier today, but hey, we'll take it at any time, we have Sam, who is a new Pewter Report YouTube channel member. So
welcome, Sam.
Thank you very much, Sam, for joining us and our Pewter Report YouTube channel. We're still going to have tons and tons of content on our YouTube page besides just the Pewter Report podcast as well. Adam has a weekly show. I've been doing Pewter Picks and Props. I just dropped a new video as well. Scott has his Pewter Pulse. So if you're craving for Bucs content, and really at any time, we're going to have it for you. So don't you worry about that. And thank you very much to Sam. Before we get into this QB list and where Baker Mayfield ranks in it, we certainly have to talk about some other news that went on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers yesterday and late into the wee hours of the morning. But we'll start with John Spytek completed his in-person interview with the Tennessee Titans. Not a shocker. We knew he was talking to the Titans as he is interviewing with the Las Vegas Raiders as well. If the Bucs had to lose either John Spytek or Mike Greenberg, Adam, who could the Bucs afford to lose more? And they're both very important, so I just want to emphasize this is splitting hairs. This isn't like the Bucs are in a better situation one way or another. But if you could only hold on to one, who are you holding on to?
Man, talk about a tough question.
We're all about spiciness today.
Yeah, we are spicy. I would go with John Spytek as a guy I'd want to keep if I were the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because you look at it and the way that the Bucs have drafted so successfully in the past couple of seasons, it's about identifying the right players more so than re-signing them to new deals. I feel like the Bucs at least have somebody in waiting with Jackie Davidson should Mike Greenberg leave, but you lose John Spytek, you lose that guy that has really developed and cultivated just an elite scouting department. And so should he go, you might see another one of the Bucs scouts head with him. And that would be a detrimental blow to an organization that's really built its way through the draft. So I would lean John Spytek, and just the opportunity that he would presumably have with either the Titans or the Raiders. The Titans is really interesting because they have the number 1 pick in the 2025 NFL draft, and Will Levis ain't it. So you think that they would maybe draft a quarterback, and the opportunity to get that and to really build the team doesn't come around often. So it might be a challenge that Spytek looks forward to, and he might take. And then also, the man on the screen there he's talking with is Tom Brady. And the Las Vegas Raiders job, that's a big market, big opportunity to make some splashes in free agency. Spytech could go, and then you also have Greeny, that he might head to the Jets or he might get looks elsewhere.
Yeah, for me, the answer is John Spytek as well. And don't get me wrong, I love Mike Greenberg. He's from Long Island like I am. He grew up a Jets fan like I did as well. So I have every reason
Yeah.
to be the biggest Mike Greenberg fan. Of course, know him as well. And I've chatted with him a bunch of times, and a great guy to talk to as well. But I've always felt that, and this isn't even specifically a John Spytek and a Mike Greenberg thing, to me, I think it's always important to find the person that identifies talent. You can get people to figure out the contract situation, and it's very important too. I don't want to belittle that by any means. I mean, you could look at in the division with the New Orleans Saints and see the ridiculous cap situation that they are in, and I bet they are. I mean, they are the Saints, so I bet they're hoping and praying that they could find their version of Mike Greenberg. So what Greenberg does is super, super, super important to the ebb and flow of the Bucs and their front office, and re-signing guys and signing new free agents, but not like hurting the team at the same time. I think Baker Mayfield's contract is a perfect example. I think after the Bucs won the Super Bowl in 2020 and they were able to bring back Chris Godwin, Levante David, and Shaq and all of those guys, that was very important. And then we saw what they did last offseason with Baker, like I just mentioned, but Mike Evans, Levante David as well. So Greenberg is very important.
Yeah.
Spytek, what it comes down to, and you pretty much mapped everything out. It's, convincing Tom Brady to come through. It's drafting extremely well. Bucky Irving, guys like that, even some of the previous drafts. And I know they don't get every single pick correctly, but if you compared the Bucs draft class to a number of other teams' draft classes, you're still taking the Buccaneers. If you look at like the last four, if you will. Now, what's intriguing as well for Spytek, and even if like Greenberg were to leave, then it becomes a game of chess, because Jason Light, like let's just say Greenberg leaves and goes to the Jets. Greenberg's going to want to take Jackie Davidson with him. At least I presume that he wants to. But Jason Light could counter that with saying, hey, Jackie, we're going to make you the assistant general manager. You will take my Greenberg spot. Now, Greenberg may offer the same thing with Jackie and the Jets. And she did, she does have an affiliation with the Jets, like got one of her first opportunities there as well. But I mean, if you have the choice of being an assistant general manager of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now or the New York Jets, that's one of the easiest questions of all time. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Jason can counter that with offering that same role to Jackie Davidson. And the same way with John Spytek, if Spytek goes to the Titans, and I think we're both in agreement, the Titans is a way better option than going to the Raiders. Or do you agree or disagree with that?
I would agree with that sentiment, yeah.
Right, because for me, it's because they have the number one pick, and they have a pretty solid defense, too. And if you have a solid defense, you just need to figure out the offense, then at least you're going in saying, hey, we found our quarterback, he's going to be our guy. The Raiders, outside of the influence of Tom Brady, who's only a minority owner, by the way, like he only owns a sliver of the team compared to everybody else, but it seems like he's running the show. The Raiders still don't have answers for who's going to be their quarterback, and they don't have a lot of talent outside of Brock
Bowers and Max Crosby.
Yeah, and that's about it. So not only do you have to find the best player available, but you also have to get that quarterback too. So yes, you could go with Spytek to Tennessee. But again, Jason Light could say, hey, Mike Beal, hey, some of the other people in the Bucs organization, you want a promotion? You want to upgrade in your career? Well, become the assistant general manager of the Bucs. And I still think that's a better spot than what's going on with Tennessee and getting an upgraded role there. So it will be a very interesting chess game, and we'll see how it plays out. I kind of have a feeling Spytek has a better chance of getting a GM job than Mike Greenberg, but who knows what the Jets are going to do. So it's all up in the air.
Yeah, and I think K.E. Hall makes a great point here. They're arguing for keeping Mike Greenberg. We saw what happened when John Robinson left. That'd be interesting, though, if Spytek left would John Robinson return? Would it be a full circle moment? Because he was hired by the Titans to lead their movement,
That's
got
right.
them to the playoffs. Then they fired him for Rand Carfin. Then they fired Carfin. Would Robinson maybe come back? He has some prior working relationship with Jason Light. That would be something maybe to watch as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I really don't think there's a wrong answer in this. Like, for anybody who would pick Mike Greenberg, you're not wrong. It's
He's a wizard.
It's very, very close. No question
when it comes to the
about
salary cap.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. There was. Is this what you were talking about before? He's 0813, who's a Pewter Report YouTube channel member, kind of saying similar. Keeping Mike Greenberg. Bucs already have a spy tech. His name is Jason Light. That's a good point, too. I mean, Jason does have an eye for talent. That's why he is the general manager. But it's a good topic of discussion. It's odd, right? Like, they're both great people. They've both been on our podcast a couple of times. So you want to see them flourish in their own role and get general manager jobs. But the only way they can really do that is leaving the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we'll see what happens. Definitely wish them all the best, regardless of how it goes down, because they are really good people. And, of course, the other worry is what is going on with Liam Coen. So I got to say, this was a little bit of a bizarre one. I got a notification on my phone at 12:40 in the morning, and it's Adam Schefter. Not that he personally hit me up.
He hit you up, man.
But Adam Schefter essentially tweets out that the Jaguars have completed their interview with Liam Coen. And the Jaguars tweeted it out like right around midnight as well. And I get it. The NFL is a very different league. It's not a 9-to-5 job by any means. But I was like, really? Like at 12, nearly 1 in the morning, you're talking about finishing up this interview? Why did it occur so late? Adam, just your initial reaction to Liam Coen having a late night session with the Jaguars. And also, a lot of people are like, oh my God, it's a done deal. Oh my God, we're finished. Liam Cohen's going to Jacksonville. How do you feel about that aspect as well?
Yeah, I think when my first reaction when I saw that was like, Jacksonville is whining and dining Liam Coen at this nice fancy restaurant until the wee hours of the morning. And I know you posted something on X a little bit earlier yesterday saying wouldn't panic just yet, but I think the fact that the interview went so late into the night maybe increases the panic level a little bit, because not only were they treating Liam Coen to this nice 5-star meal, but they're probably also going over a lot of things in regards to the roster, how he would construct it, and just his overall philosophy. And I think that probably makes him more of a head coaching candidate than maybe first anticipated, because this only being a first interview and seeing that it went as late as it did is probably a good sign for him, but maybe a bad sign for the Bucs. That's kind of how I would see it, reading in between the lines.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's not, again, it's a great thing for Liam Coen, and we're also in a weird spot with him where you're happy for him. He's a nice guy. You want to see him do well in his career. It also means him leaving the Buccaneers, unless obviously Todd Bowles gets fired and they make him the head coach here in Tampa. But the reason why I'm not freaking out is a couple of things. One, we've seen the Jaguars go to the wire with Byron Leftwich and ended up not going with Byron Leftwich. The Jaguars are kind of a cockamamie franchise. They're a little bit all over the place. And it leads me to think, and this is just having my antennas up. This is a little bit of a theory. I don't know this for a fact. But for you wrestling fans out there, so obviously many of you know that the Coen family owned the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, Shad Khan, also a lot is run by his son, Tony Khan. Tony Khan is also very much involved with their Premier League soccer team over in England, Fulham. He's involved with the Jaguars a good amount. He does something with their stats. But he also runs a pretty successful wrestling company called AEW. It's the second biggest company besides the WWE. And the reason why I bring this up is Tony travels to their like Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, what WWE has. Their show is called Dynamite. It's on Wednesdays. And Tony goes to every single Dynamite show, wherever it is. I don't recall where it was yesterday, but it wasn't in Jacksonville. I can tell you that. Last night was Wednesday Night Dynamite. So my theory, and I don't know this for a fact, but this is what I'm thinking. My theory is Tony Khan, who's a little bit out there to begin with, definitely not your traditional type of owner and stuff like that. I think Tony Khan was probably like, hey, I'm running Dynamite. Let's do this interview after I get back into town once Dynamite is done. Hey, why don't we just do the interview at 11:45 at night? Typically, to most people, that's odd and it doesn't make much sense. But for Tony Khan, who's a very nice person, I've met him before, but again, is a little more eccentric than some of these owners and GMs and all that stuff like that. He probably looks at 11:45 p.m. meeting as being like, yeah, let's put it on the schedule. Like there's only so many hours in a day type of thing. So I'm not saying that happened. I'm not reporting that or anything, but that is my theory as to why it was such a late interview with Liam Coen. And the last thing that I think is still important is the Jaguars are still interviewing a couple of other people. They interviewed, or they're going to interview Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator, who did a really, really good job this year. They are also interviewing Robert Saleh, who has head coaching experience. That's something, I know it didn't work out with the Jets, but that's something that the Jaguars might favor a little bit more. I mean, they did just let go of Doug Peterson, but they might still want that experienced guy. So I don't think it's a done deal just yet with Liam Coen because of all of those things. And the last play that the Bucs have is Liam Coen says, hey, I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars head coaching job. And the Bucs go, well, what if we made you the head coach here in Tampa? Then if Liam Coen has to decide between those two things, I think it's no question that he stays with the Bucs.
Yeah, I think you outlined that really well. And just kind of, you mentioned Brian Flores and the fact that the Vikings just got eliminated. He's probably going to be set to meet with the Jacksonville Jaguars. You have Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator of the Bills, Steve Spagnuolo, I think, from the Chiefs.
Steve Spagnuolo, yeah.
And then you got the Spags to the Jags factor there. I mean, that could be electric. But there are other candidates that the Jaguars will obviously go about interviewing throughout the process. So Coen isn't a sure bet there. And I think you kind of like calmed it down just a little bit, and the fact that they might have had other dealings with AEW going on, that they might have just interviewed Coen later at night. But regardless, I think Coen, he might get a second interview there. And it'll be really interesting to see if the Raiders were to hire Spytek, would they request an interview with him too? So it's like, it's not done just yet, but signs point to maybe just lowering the panic level a little bit.
Well, that's the other scenario is especially with the Raiders, if the Raiders decide that they do want to hire John Spytek, then yes, Liam Coen becomes way more of an option in Las Vegas than he does right now. So you kind of got to be rooting for, and I don't expect this to happen, but you almost have to be rooting for the Raiders to hire a coach first before a GM. So you at least kind of lower the risk of losing both Liam Coen and John Spytek and potentially Mike Greenberg versus only losing one of them. So again, it's a lot of moving parts. It's a little bit of just playing roulette. You don't really know where it's going to land until it officially does. And it's a little bit of a wait and see approach, right? Like every day, I didn't know that at 1 a.m. it was going to be a done interview with Liam Coen. That's just kind of how it goes. So day by day, minute by minute, it could all be going somewhere different. So make sure you stay tuned to pewterreport.com. We will make sure we have every single aspect of it covered. And we have a super chat from Bucs Basement. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the $1.99 super chat. He says, disgraceful. They're choosing Todd Bowles over Liam Coen. Thank you very much for the super chat, Bucs Basement. I know a lot of people feel pretty strongly one way or another about Todd Bowles and about Liam Coen as well, but we don't know just yet that the Bucs are going to be fine with losing Liam Coen. Again, we've seen scenarios before. They made Monty Kiffin the highest paid defensive coordinator in the league way back in the day. They did it with Todd Bowles when he was still a defensive coordinator. Maybe Liam Coen is just interviewing with the Jacksonville Jaguars so he can get some head coaching interviewing experience, which is very important. Let's remember Mike Greenberg took an interview with the Carolina Panthers last year.
That's right.
He didn't get the job, but you don't think that probably helped him with his interview with the New York Jets? Sure it did. Liam Cohen's been very much on the record that, yes, he wants to be a head coach, but it doesn't have to be right away. It can wait a little bit. He's having too much fun in Tampa with Baker Mayfield and with this group. He may pull a Ben Johnson and say, you know what? I'm going to chill here for another season. I think we can win a Super Bowl. So I want to win a Super Bowl, and then I'll become a head coach. You know how you sweeten the deal? Hey, we'll make you the highest paid offensive coordinator. You stay as a coordinator and then decide whatever you want to do next season. There are still a couple of factors in play where the Bucs don't lose Liam Coen. I'm not saying it's 100% going to happen, but let's let all of these scenarios play out.
Yep, let all the scenarios play out. Let the musical chairs fall how they're going to fall. And I wouldn't say that the Bucs have chosen Bowles over Coen just yet because there's been no determination. They haven't come out and publicly said. So until that time, you never know. And there's been scenarios in the past where Tampa Bay has made very interesting moves pretty deep into the offseason regarding head coaches. And when you look at Liam Coen, like getting that interview with Jacksonville, it's nice, but it might just be a thing where you've built up the resume, you're preparing to be a head coach, but it might not be this year. It might be a year or two. It might still be with the Bucs. And taking the Ben Johnson route, I mean, it works. I mean, Ben Johnson, every single year, he has this pick of where I can go here, I can go here, and I can have stipulations. I can say he has more leverage with that. And so I think Liam Coen getting this interview will be a big step for him and becoming a head coach in the future, but it could still be in Tampa Bay.
Very much could be. And speaking of musical chairs, I would love to play that game, but call it musical cans, if you will. And each time you land on a can, you get a Celsius energy drink, which comes in cans. Of course, Celsius is the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. We love Celsius for all of their fantastic flavors, like the Arctic vibe, tropical vibe. They have a new playa vibe, as Scott calls it, playa vibe as well. So playa, however you want to call it. It's a pina colada flavor. It's absolutely delicious. You see the sparkling watermelon lemonade flavor on the screen there as well. So no matter what you pick, you can't go wrong with the Celsius energy drink. If you need to know where to find a Celsius, maybe you're on vacation or moved to a new area, whatever the case may be, go to the Celsius store locator on their website, punch in your address, and it'll tell you the closest place where you could pick one up. Could be a Walmart, a GNC, a Target, a Walbounds, a Walgreens, a Stop and Shop, or your bodega.
Bodega.
And after you keep going to your bodega, and you know you love Celsius and you want more, you want to get it in bulk, you can with the subscribe and save. Have it sent to your place of residence whenever you want. Just do it at your own leisure. I'd recommend the variety pack because there's so many fantastic flavors of Celsius, and variety is the spice of life. And this is a spicy episode, as we talked about. So have it sent to your place at your own leisure, and just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com. Love this comment from Steven Stansfield, who says Bucksdega. Might have to start doing that. Like, oh, if you're in the Tampa area, go to your closest Bucksdega. But anyway, shout out to Celsius. Okay, Adam, let's get into this QB rankings. Of course, the topic is Baker Mayfield, a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Now, you and I both came up with our own lists.
We did.
We listed it up to 28. And if you're asking why we did that, it's because there's a couple of teams that don't have a starting quarterback, are probably going to draft one, or just don't have a quarterback that is starting worthy at this point. So we excluded the Browns because Deshaun Watson is injured again. He's not going to be starting next year. We excluded the Giants because they obviously don't know what they're doing.
It's not Tommy DeVito.
It's not Tommy DeVito. That is correct. We also excluded
the The Raiders?
The Raiders, because they want to draft a quarterback. And we excluded the Titans as well, because as you mentioned before, Adam, that Will Levis is not the guy. Yesterday's show, when we did the best Bucs, Stubby Ryan says 28, but last year I had 37. Listen, if you want to rank Gardner Minshew and Justin Fields and guys like that, and Tommy DeVito,
Spencer Rattler, throw him in there.
Spencer Rattler, go ahead, be my guest. But we're not going to do that. So yesterday's show, when we did the best Bucs, we went from 10 to 1. Today, we're going to go from 1 to about 10 to 15. Then we'll kind of rattle off the rest of them at the end. Embrace debate, if you will. But I think the top 4 overall, Adam, 2 and 3, you can kind of 2, 3, and 4, you can kind of mix in your own order. I don't really have an argument. It's where 5 comes into play that, for me, gets really juicy, if you will. And by the way, some people have commented with where you think Baker should be ranked. Stubby Ryan says, top 5 or not, he's ours. I love that. Absolutely. He embodies Tampa. There's no doubt about it. K.E. Hall says, I got Baker ranked at 8. You are ridiculous. Top 7. John V says top 5. No. Top 10. Yes. We'll get to Paul, a.k.a. OG Baker Bro, in just a moment as well. But number 1 on the list, we both have Patrick Mahomes. And I get it, Patrick Mahomes hasn't had the best statistical season, but we're talking about a Chiefs team that is back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Mahomes has been a big reason because of it. They lost, 2 games this year, and one of them he didn't play in because it was the last game of the season. This ranking, and I should have clarified beforehand, so my apologies. This ranking is it's not just like what they did this season. It's a little bit of their body of work, a little bit of what their future and potential will look like as well. Because, we're talking about rookies. We're talking about veterans that may be retired next season. So you can't just bottle it up all into, one time frame. But Mahomes has to be at the top.
Yeah, Mahomes, in recent seasons, I would say, though, Mahomes is kind of in a tier of his own. This year, it's gotten a little bit closer with some of the quarterbacks that slot in behind him. But when you look at it, and the fact that he's won so many big games, won the most Super Bowls of any starting quarterback, he can kind of coast through the regular season, if you will. Like sometimes they do in the NBA. Like, even if when they get to the playoffs, you know what Patrick Mahomes is going to be. He's going to raise his game up. He's going to be that efficient quarterback. And he remains the face of the NFL. And so until proven otherwise, until another quarterback steps up, you got to keep Mahomes at number 1.
Yeah, no question about it. He's the guy.
Number 2, though.
No, we can just knock 2, 3, and 4 all out. I guess we can discuss it a little bit. So number 2, and we came up with our own list separately. Number 2, we both have Joe Burrow. And I don't know if this is controversial or not, because Burrow didn't make the postseason this year, but he had an unreal year. Over 4,500 passing yards. Only him and Baker Mayfield did that. He had a ton of touchdowns. Jamar Chase had the best year of his career. It's tough for Joe Burrow, right? The last 2 years have kind of sucked. Like last year, he got injured. He missed a number of games, and Cincinnati was done for when he didn't play, as is a lot of teams if their starter is out. They don't make the playoffs this year. Their defense is putrid. But also, under pressure, there's not many people better besides Mahomes. He's one of the few people to beat Mahomes in Kansas City in the postseason. That's not easy to do. Lamar Jackson couldn't beat Patrick Mahomes in Baltimore in the postseason. Josh Allen couldn't beat Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, couldn't beat him in Buffalo either. And I know it's not just quarterback versus quarterback, but if we're going to highlight all the Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning matchups over the years, now's the time to do Mahomes versus Allen, Mahomes versus Lamar, and Mahomes versus Burrow as well. So for me, that's why I have Joe Burrow second.
Yeah, and I have Burrow second as well. And you mentioned kind of the team aspect. Like if Burrow was on a team that made it to the playoffs, you're talking about a guy that's well in the MVP conversation. But the Bengals, they kind of held him back a little bit, especially with their defense. But you can argue that Burrow was the best player in the NFL this year. The statistics speak for itself. He leaded the league in passer yards. He had 43 touchdowns. He had 8 straight games, Matt. 8 straight games with 3 or more touchdown passes. Joe Burrow is an elite thrower of the football. And you could say, well, he has Jamar Chase, so he has T. Higgins. He elevates the guys around him, and that's the biggest thing. And like he's lived up to the number 1 overall pick billing, and he's become the second best quarterback in the NFL. Has a real case to be number 1 with another big year next year. And then kind of diving further into 3 and 4, it's the MVP debate of this year.
Yes.
Is it going to be Lamar Jackson? Is it going to be Josh Allen? For me, I have Lamar Jackson at number 3, and I believe you do as well. And with Lamar Jackson, he's amazing. And what he's really done this year, Matt, is he's developed as a passer, because the whole time it's like, oh, he just runs around. He just scrambles for yards. He's Michael Vick. No, he's not. He threw 41 touchdowns this year compared to 4 interceptions. That is otherworldly production. And so for Lamar Jackson, I think he's everything you'd want in a quarterback. He has the elite speed with the elite throw power. And then number 4, Josh Allen. You talk about throw power. This man, he can sling a ball 70 yards down the field if he wanted to. And he's a modern day gunslinger. And he pairs that. He ran for 12 touchdowns this year. That's outrageous. And you don't think that when you see Josh Allen. But I would say Lamar at number 3, a slight edge, and then Josh Allen number 4.
Right. For those two, like I also have Lamar 3, Josh Allen 4. It's very interchangeable. Like if there's people that want to say Josh Allen 3, Lamar 4, that's absolutely fine. I'm totally for it. You know what? How we should decide it? Whoever wins on Sunday, that person gets 3, and the person who loses gets 4. That's really what it should come down to. And by the way, I wish the Bucs were still in the playoffs, but I am so freaking excited for that Bills-Ravens game. It's the last game of the weekend, Sunday at 6:30. The Sunday slate, I know the Bucs aren't playing, but the Sunday slate is so much better than Saturday. Because Saturday you got Texans-Chiefs. I kind of think that's going to be a blowout. And then the night game is, what's the night game? It's the other AFC. No, it's Lions. It's Lions-Commanders, which again will be entertaining. Yeah. But I think the Lions are going to smoke the Commanders too. Then Sunday afternoon, you get Rams-Eagles. I think that's going to be a doozy of the game. I think I'm going to pick the Rams. I may do a Pewter Picks and Prop this week, but do it like in a short form, because I get it. Most people come for like the Bucs stuff, but if it's short, it's 1 minute. You can take the time to watch it. And then that night game, that's going to be so much fun. Like I'm so excited for that. So yeah, really when it comes down to, I mean, Derrick Henry has helped Lamar Jackson's game so much, but he hasn't like carried Lamar Jackson. And I think it's great too. Like Lamar has done it with the tight ends being his top receivers. And yes, he can run a ton, and Zay Flowers is pretty good, and Bateman's not bad either. But like Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman versus, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, it's not even close. I know the Bills lost Stephon Diggs, but they got some talented receivers as well. Josh Allen is just a battering ram when he runs the football.
Yeah.
They got a run game this year too, which has really helped them out. So whichever way you want to flip it, I'm fine with. I still have Lamar 3, but I think Josh Allen might win the MVP just because there's a thing that happens. You see it all the time in the NBA. It happened with Michael Jordan. It happened with LeBron. It's going on with Jokic right now, or at least it did.
That voter fatigue.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say is they get voter fatigue and they're tired of voting for the same guy. So I think, and what I think might hurt Lamar as well is people are going to look at him not beating Mahomes last year, getting bounced in the second round a lot and being like, well, how can he be the MVP if he keeps losing? So while I have Lamar 3, I think Josh Allen is going to win MVP. Okay. Number 5.
Who's it going to be?
And before we get to number
Mayfield.
5, is it Baker Mayfield? We have a couple of other comments about the, the ranking and everything like that. Latest Productions. says Bake will be top 5 next year after he wins MVP. That is a
It's a
bold
bold,
prediction.
yeah.
Matt Grain-Fed Corporatist says, yes, definitely Baker is top 5. John V with a different take, not necessarily about Baker,
I agree with this
says
one.
the top 4 are in their own tier. And I would agree with that as well. And that's not even saying anything negative about 5 through 10. They are just the
No,
elite of the best in the league. So nothing wrong there by any means. And Paul, aka OG Baker Bro, says 41 touchdowns, 70% completion percentage. The INTs sting a little bit, but I would come back and ask if anyone thought Brett Favre was a top 5 quarterback in his prime. He had his share of picks too. It's a good point, but Brett Favre has also had a very long, sustainable prime. Baker's had 2 very good years.
yeah.
And I'm not knocking Baker Mayfield. I'm just saying, like, you got to look at Favre's whole career and all of Baker's career as well. Okay. Number 5 on our QB ranking list, we both had the same person, and it is Jared Goff. So It's not Baker Mayfield. Adam, why did you have Jared Goff as number 5 on this list?
I mean, man, you look at Jared Goff and what he's done with the Lions. I mean, he's been on his own career arc in a huge way. After getting traded from the Rams, he's just kind of viewed as a bridge guy with the Lions. Hold over to get a top draft pick. Nope. He is that guy. He is a top 5 quarterback. And it starts with the deadly accuracy that he has, completing over 72% of his passes this year. You look at like a lot of these quarterbacks, like he was completing 18 out of 18 passes, 20 out of 22 passes on a weekly basis. And he paired that with a lot of big throws and big moments. He had 37 touchdown passes this year. Just really like what I saw out of Jared Goff. And one game kind of skewed his interception number. He had the 5 interceptions against the Texans. You take that out, Matt, and he has 37 touchdowns to 7 picks. Like that's amazing production there. And Goff is a little bit more proven than Baker at this point. He's done a little bit more in his career. He's been to a Super Bowl. When you kind of weigh that past production as well, I think he gets the slight nod over Mayfield, who he's a little bit down these rankings yet.
Yeah, for me, again, it's not just what happened this season. It's the body of work for the past couple of years. And huge credit to Jared Goff, because everybody's like, wow, look at the Rams. They got Matt Stafford. They're going to be fantastic. And they won a Super Bowl. No doubt about it. So I don't want to hear people say the Lions won the trade, because the ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl, and the Rams did. But the Lions have done great, great things with Jared Goff since he's been their quarterback. If you look at the last 3 years, it's really been where he's balled out. Going 9-8, still had 4,400 yards and 29 touchdowns. Then he threw for almost 4,600 yards, but 4,575 yards in 2023 with 30 touchdowns, and then 37 this year, like you mentioned. And over the last 2 years, he went 12-5 and then 15-2. I think that has to be factored in as well a little bit, where, Baker, and granted, Baker was on a new team, all that stuff, went 9-8, and then improved this year to 10-7. And if you want to argue Goff has like all these great players around him, Baker has Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Like, it's not like Baker has no one to throw to. Now, Baker has a running game this year, which is very, very important. It's just, for me, a little bit of the longevity for Jared Goff versus Baker. But Baker jumping onto the scene like he has been very important. So moving on to 6. We know Baker's not in the top 5. And by the way, a couple more comments to get to. G Vegas says, Goff is my 5th quarterback right now. Follows that up with, you do hope Baker can improve his numbers next year. For sure. Really just the interceptions. And as Leaders Production says, Bake's got to cut down the picks to the 10-12 range. So, 10-12 range, excuse me. This next one, we have a difference of opinion, slightly.
This is our first difference, yeah.
This is our first difference. And we're going to tell you all about it just after we tell you about Autograph. We love Autograph. It was founded by another quarterback that would have been ranked out number 1 at one point, Tom Brady, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer great who won a Super Bowl with the Bucs. Autograph is what you already do as a fan. It's reading blogs, listening to podcasts, watching breakdowns, all in one place, and it earns you rewards for every act of fandom that you do. You could download the Autograph app on your phone. It's completely free and available on Android and iPhones. Just use the promo code PEWTER, P-E-W-T-E-R, when you sign up. And they don't just have it for the NFL. They also have it for the NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, fantasy football, and the NCAA. So you can read Pewter Report news, watch Pewter Report videos and podcasts, and get rewarded in one free app using the promo code PEWTER, P-E-W-T-E-R. So shout out to our friends over at Autograph. Okay, coming in at number 6, I have Matthew Stafford, but Adam, you have Baker Mayfield.
I do. Baker Mayfield slots in number 6 for me, while Matthew Stafford slots in at 9. And when I look at Baker Mayfield and the year he had, kind of alluded to it earlier, just how much he improved year over year. You look at the PFF grades, they kind of back up that claim. Last year, he ranked 19th among quarterbacks. This year, he ranked 6th, and I fittingly have him there. But when you look at Mayfield, he ranked 3rd in yards. He was tied for 2nd in touchdowns, 3rd in completion percentage, and 4th in passer rating. So all those statistics kind of point to him this season, at least, being a top 5 quarterback. And while you look at the top 4, the pedigree of those guys, he's a little bit below them. And then Jared Goff, who we just talked about, still has a little bit of a ways to go to catch him. But I think when you look at Mayfield, the team's success will be the biggest determinant in just how far he moves up the rankings going forward. But I think this is a fair placement because he has the numbers, he has the efficiency, he improved across the board, Matt, and he had like over 500 passing yards more than he did the year prior. He had 13 more touchdowns. Yes, the interception total went up a little bit, but the completion percentage, just everything together, I think Mayfield really elevated his game. And so I think over some of the other quarterbacks on this list, he's a better pure passer than maybe, let's say, Jalen Hurts or Jaden Daniels yet. And I think over Matthew Stafford, he just has a little bit more upside and potential going forward.
There's no doubt he has more upside. He's going to be in the league longer than Stafford, at least moving forward. Like, this may be Stafford's final season. It could be. So I have Baker 7, so not far off by any means. He's in the top 7, which I think is very important. And he very much has room to improve to get into that top 5. I mean, if he can duplicate another season of what he just did with 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, some really good playoff performances too. Like, I know they lost the other night and the fumble will really be highlighted. But let's remember, Baker was 15 of 18, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and his passer rating was 146. Like, that's unreal, and that's unheard of. If he does that again, or does even better and just lowers the interceptions in the regular season, he will be in the top 5. Matt Stafford's been doing this for a very, very long time. And I get that his stats are not close to where Baker is this season or even last season. The Rams are a weird regular season team. They don't necessarily care about getting the number 1 seed. They didn't play any of their starters their last game of the season, knowing that if they lost, they would have to play the loser of Lions-Vikings. And they went out and smoked the Vikings. Now, the Rams defense this year is much, much better than what Baker had
Jared Verse,
over
Braden
Tampa
Fisk.
Bay. Yeah. And Braden Fisk was at the Senior Bowl last year, which, of course, we'll be at in a couple of weeks coming up. I just look at it with Matthew Stafford, and Baker right now. If I had to take one of those quarterbacks to win one game, to win one big game, I'm still going with Matthew Stafford. He's won a Super Bowl. He's won some big-time playoff games. He has a lot more playoff experience, even though he only got most of it with the Rams. Like, he only had one playoff game with the Lions. I believe they lost to the Saints, like, way back in the day. But Matthew Stafford has seen everything. Every type of defense has been thrown at him. He's good against the blitz, as Bucs fans know, going back to that 2021 season. It was very, very close, but I'm just choosing a little bit more of the experience of Matthew Stafford, than Baker Mayfield. I hated to do it, but I just got to go with how I feel, and that's how I feel. It doesn't mean I'm down at all on Baker Mayfield, because that's why I have him 7th. I have him right after Matthew Stafford. Just an unreal season for Baker. I fully believe he got snubbed with getting into the Pro Bowl, and we don't know if he's even going to play in the Pro Bowl this year, because he is an alternate. But who are the 3 quarterbacks? Sam Darnold, Jaden Daniels, and Jared Goff?
Yep.
Right. So Darnold's already eliminated, and he's going to play. Like, who knows what his future is going to be. And then Jaden Daniels and Jared Goff are playing against each other this weekend. So if one of them has to lose, if the other loses to the winner of Eagles-Rams, well, all 3 of those guys are probably playing in the Pro Bowl, and we don't see Baker Mayfield at all. And that pisses me off. I like watching Baker Mayfield in the Pro Bowl. He's pretty damn good.
Yeah, and the snubbing of Baker Mayfield this year in the Pro Bowl, just as bad as Antoine Winfield Jr. the year prior. I mean, you look at the numbers, you look at the fanfare, like popularity-wise, Baker Mayfield's like he's on the national map. So for the fact that he got snubbed over Sam Darnold and Jaden Daniels, I mean, you kind of get Jared Goff, because Lions fans, they're probably ecstatic. They're hitting that ProBowl.com. They're voting all the Lions because they never had this kind of national recognition before. But I don't know how Mayfield doesn't make the NFC Pro Bowl, because you look at the top 4 quarterbacks that we mentioned, Matt, they're all in the AFC. Mahomes, Burrow, Jackson, and Allen. Like, it's disgraceful to an extent. But yeah, when you look at Mayfield's season, there is still room to grow. And it was a toss-up for me. And I can kind of see your point about Mayfield and Stafford, who you would rather have in a big game. But Mayfield has also had a ton of success in the playoffs. I believe of all quarterbacks, he has the highest passer rating in the postseason. It's not the most extensive resume, but he also has fared well, and he hasn't just had duds when it matters.
Baker does tend to show up in some bright moments. There's no doubt about it. I was about to get on the case of Stubby Ryan, who was saying that I always, as he says, Matt hates Baker, basically is what he said. Boo this man. But then he says, I'm JK, by the way. Love, Matt. Love you too, Stubby Ryan. Love the picture. Sarcasm button got stuck. But then Les Evans says, Matt has always dumped on Baker. I don't think that's the case at all. I'm a pretty big Baker Mayfield supporter. I go pretty crazy for him during the Pewter Game Day show. Again, I'm picking him. I'm saying he's a top 7 quarterback in the league. I'm not saying he's terrible by any means. By the way, I just put out a video on our YouTube channel. You can check it out, where I did a quick video. It's about a little over 7 minutes long, so it's a quick watch. When I was watching the Vikings-Rams game the other night, obviously Sam Darnold was a big storyline. Oh, he's losing millions by every single mistake that he makes. If you look at over the last 3 years, there's been 3 QB resurgences, if you will. Geno Smith in 2022, Baker last year in 2023, and Sam Darnold this year in 2024. Credit to all of them for reviving their careers, but there's no doubt about it that Baker has had the best resurgence by far over Geno Smith and Sam Darnold. If you look at what they did in their first years joining their new teams, what Geno and Baker did in their second year after signing a big contract with their teams, and what they've done in the postseason as well. The answer is definitely Baker Mayfield. So I go more into detail about it on the show. So make sure you check that out. No doubt about it. We got a super chat to get to as well. Thank you to Derek Breon for the $9.99 super chat. We really appreciate that. Who says, Todd did the best he could with the players he had. We spent most of our draft picks on the offense. Our defense has been hurting, and if we can keep Todd and Coen and draft defense, we will win the Super Bowl. Adam, your thoughts on that?
I get what you're saying, Derek, and the fact that a lot of the picks this past draft were on the offensive side of the football, but you also had Tyke Smith and Chris Braswell. 2 of the top 3 picks were on defense, and the defense was hurting. They did battle a lot of injuries, and I think from a personnel side of things, Todd did the best that he could with the players that he had, because a lot of them were practice squad caliber in the secondary as the year went on. If we can keep Todd and Coen in draft defense, we'll win the Super Bowl. I don't know. And again, that points to the decision that the Glazers have to make. Is Todd Bowles a Super Bowl winning head coach? When it comes down to it, will his game management not come back to bite him? That's where it kind of gets murky. And you've kind of seen what Bowles has done, what's on his resume. And it's not as simple as a yes or no. And I think it's just to be determined at this point. So appreciate the comment. I think Bowles did the best that he could to some extent, but there still needs to be improvements, and he needs to start improving. And that starts internally, looking within, and then, as the offseason goes on, try to find some different ways to rejuvenate things.
The issue for me with Bowles, or at least one of the issues, is I get that maybe he was behind the 8 ball a little bit with the number of injuries that they had on the defensive side. But then you look at the Lions, who have a high potent offense, but so do the Bucs. You look at the Lions and the way, I know it looked bad against the 49ers, and they won that game anyway, but tons of points were scored. Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, how he got that group together for the Week 18 game against the Vikings, and maybe some of it was Sam Darnold just, not playing up to the expectations or the caliber of what they needed for that game specifically. But that defense came to play in a winner-take-all type of event. And they had even more injuries than the Bucs did. So on the one hand, I understand when you don't have Antoine Winfield Jr. for half the season and Jamel Dean's in and out of the lineup every other game, it's kind of tough to piece stuff together. But I also think you got to have that in mind, that you can't just run the same type of defensive scheme with the personnel that you have. You have to put other, setups in place to kind of protect some of the issues and inefficiencies that you had on defense. I mean, how many times did we see the Bucs get beat over the middle? It was time and time again. How many times do we see a team get the ball in the second quarter with a minute to go and one timeout, and they had to go 80 yards, and they drove all the way down the field on the same 8-yard out route, catch the ball, get out of bounds, waste only 2 seconds, and then get into field goal range. We saw the same type of mistakes over and over and over. And that, to me, is what's really frustrating about Todd Bowles. Now, on the flip side of it, it depends how they attack their free agency and drafting. Because I am a little bit over the idea of, hey, go draft the pass rusher, and then we'll develop him and he'll become the guy. Because we've seen JTS, not the guy. Chris Braswell couldn't even get on the field towards the end. He had 5 snaps in that playoff game. And who knows, maybe Braswell steps up and does something big next season. But for me, number one on the list, besides re-signing Chris Godwin and some of their own players, to me, the other big thing that you can really do is go out and get a big-time pass rusher. I don't know if that's signing Khalil Mack. I know Hassan Reddick has been talked about. Maybe a trade for Max Crosby or something like that. But Todd Bowles' defense can – Myles Garrett as well. The defense of Todd Bowles can change in an instant if they find a premier pass rusher where they don't have to dial up the blitz every single time. Because then you're going to have, hypothetically, Khalil Mack or Max Crosby and Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey. You can't double team and Yaya as well. But I'm talking about 3 legitimate pass rushers.
Yeah,
and Yaya does pretty well too. You can't double team everyone. That becomes an immediate tough group to deal with. And then if you want to spend draft picks on inside linebackers and another corner, fine. But you can't just do all draft picks and no free agents and expect this group to get better. Now, if they do that with finding a veteran edge rusher, my ceiling this year for the Bucs was the NFC Championship game. I think they could get to the Super Bowl if that's the case. But you can't really find out until it actually happens. So it remains to be seen. But what we can see is how important having the right insurance is in the state of Florida. And there is no better insurance to deal with than Briar Greaves and how they can help you. If you're a longtime podcast listener, you probably remember the late, great Mark Cook talking about Briar Greaves Insurance. Pewter Report Scott Reynolds has been a Briar Greaves customer for years, and there simply isn't a better insurance company in the Tampa Bay area. Visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com to see for yourself. Briar Greaves Insurance is family-owned, and their main goal is helping people. They want to help people find the right insurance policy for you and your family. Whether it's home or auto, boating insurance, or business insurance, turn to Briar Greaves and find out why their personal touch and customer service sets them apart. The days of waiting on hold to speak with insurance representatives that you don't even know are over. With Briar Greaves Insurance, you'll have a relationship with your agent who can answer your questions and advise you on the best policies. As 2 recent hurricanes have shown all of us that live in the Tampa Bay area, there is a cost of living in paradise. Briar Greaves can help you make sure the right hurricane and flood insurance to make you and your home are protected. Visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com today. That's BRIER Greaves, GRIEVES. Or call their office today at 813-876-4166. One more time, that is 813-876-4166. And tell them that Pewter Report sent you. A couple more comments to get to as well. Let's start it off with Monica Catrice, who says Baker Mayfield balled this year. Baker did a great job. Nick Pletcher says, always enjoy listening to you guys. Love the podcast. Thank you so much, Nick. We appreciate all of your support. No doubt about it. And G Vegas says, maybe if SpyTech goes to Vegas, he can do Tampa Bay a favor and send Max for a 3rd rounder. That is a very positive way of looking at it. Like you're doing business with someone you're very familiar with.
Yeah.
Not the worst idea.
He has Jason at the top of his contact list. Matt, when we're kind of talking about adding an established defender, fully agree with you on that. Let's say Max Crosby, Jason Light picks up the phone, maybe to John Spytek, and he's saying, what would you want for Max Crosby? What do you think would be fair compensation for one of the best pass rushers?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I'd ask for a 1st-round pick, and then they probably say no. And I'd probably settle for oh, man, I don't know. I don't want to sound like an idiot and come up with like a ridiculous thing. But I was thinking like 2 second-round picks and a 3rd-round pick, something like that. I don't know if that's wild.
I think with the Bucs kind of being more in a win now mode, they would probably give up number 19 for Max Crosby because I think he's under contract still for a couple of years. So maybe a 1 in a next year or 2, maybe throw in an extra 3 or something. And I think that gets it done.
I would be willing to part with the 1st-round pick this year.
If that means getting Max Crosby, I mean, you do.
Because that means your 1st-round pick is Max Crosby. That's essentially what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And there's no issue with that at all. But it's a good hypothetical to have. Maybe we can explore that a little bit further on another episode. Adam, why don't we rattle off a couple more of these QB rankings? We don't have to go into extreme detail because we got to Baker. But yeah, why don't you go from like 7 to 15 or so? Because some of ours are similar, but they're a little different as well.
Yeah, I think we have a general consensus, but yeah, there's some differentiation between our rankings. So number 7, Jaden Daniels, the rookie. I have him. I like him a lot. I was listening to Trevor Sikkema and Connor Rogers today. They did a redraft of the 2024 NFL draft. If you're the Bears, you redraft Jaden Daniels and you take him over Caleb Williams. Just what he's done this year. Yeah. He's unlike any rookie quarterback. You can kind of say CJ Stroud last year, but I think Jaden Daniels, the sky's the limit for him. Number 7, Jalen Hurts 8, Matthew Stafford 9. My guy, Jordan Love, number 10, rounds it out. CJ Stroud, put him down a peg at number 11. He kind of slumped a little bit more this year. 12, I have Dak Prescott, who's a regular season merchant. He's always put numbers. Postseason, to be determined. Yeah. And then after 12, Matt, is where I think they do get spicy. And you could shuffle guys around any way you'd like. 13, Justin Herbert. 14, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is elite efficiency, but it's San Francisco's system. And I think that kind of knocks him down a little bit. If he did it outside of San Francisco, maybe you bump him a little higher. And then number 15, I have Tua.
Okay. Yeah, we're not far off. So 6, I had Stafford, 7, Baker, 8, Jalen Hurts, 9, Jordan Love, 10, Jaden Daniels, 11, CJ Stroud. I put Dak at 12. I think people kind of like completely blow by his regular seasons. I get it hasn't totally worked in the postseason, but he puts up numbers in Dallas. There's no doubt about it. 13, I have Trevor Lawrence, but he may go higher up in the wrong direction on these rankings if he doesn't put it together next season, because the potential's still there. Some injuries have really hurt him, but at some point that can't be an excuse anymore. Justin Herbert, I have at 14. He's a good quarterback. He's got every single fundamental that you want, but I'm sick and tired of everybody freaking out about how amazing Justin Herbert is when he's
a what-if quarterback
twice. He's such a what-if guy. He was terrible. He was terrible in that playoff game. And everyone's like, oh, Justin Herbert, he's unbelievable. I get it. He should probably have a little bit better targets, but come on, man. Like, put it together.
Yeah. If you're playing Madden.
Papers, as Sam Meehan says. He's good on paper. That's good.
Madden, he's a top 7 quarterback. But in real life, you got to kind of weigh things. And he had an absolute, like, Tony Romo-esque playoff dud. It was bad. So.
And then 15, I have Purdy. He does well in the San Francisco system, but he is a huge benefactor of the San Francisco system. And then 16, I have Tua. So again,
that's where I had Trevor
far
Lawrence.
off.
Yeah.
Why don't you just rip off the rest and then we'll kind of keep going.
Yeah. So 16 had Trevor Lawrence. 17, another rookie, Bo Nix. Number 18, Geno. With number 19, number 1 in my heart, Aaron Rodgers, of course. Number 20. Sam Darnold, the 2024 version of Baker. He could move up the list with another big season, or he could go down a peg. You never know. 21, Kyler Murray. 22 and 23, Drake May, Caleb Williams. 24, Bryce Young, came on strong in the second half. Number 25, Derek Carr. He's still around, still beating around the bush as veteran quarterback. We'll see if he's able to do much next year with the Saints and the guys they sign off the street to make the cap situation work. Number 26, Michael Penix. Couple games. You like what you saw. 27, Russell Wilson. And number 28, Anthony Richardson.
Okay, we're not that far off. So 17, I had Geno. 18, I have Kyler Murray. I think like he's very hot and cold, but when he's on, he's one of the more electric quarterbacks, but he needs that consistency. Bo Nix at 19, like the progress. Definitely high expectations for next season. Aaron Rodgers at 20. I think he's more of a victim of a terrible New York Jets offensive line, but can still sling it a little bit. 21, Drake May. Good potential there as well. 22, Sam Darnold. Those last 2 games really stuck with me probably more than they should.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams at 23. Not giving up on him just yet. Bryce Young at 24. Again, his arrow is trending in the right direction. Put Michael Penix Jr. at 25, but as you and I kind of talked about before the show, it's tough to really make a prediction on him. He's only started like 3 games down the end of the season, so that's really a TBD. Derek Carr, 26, just gets hurt too much. Russell Wilson, 27, he might not even be starting next season. And then Anthony Richardson, 28, just not an accurate passer. He's everything that we saw in Florida. Like, there's been no differences.
Yeah.
He doesn't throw that well. He's a gigantic body. He can run pretty well, too. I see like a Taysom Hill role for him eventually, but I don't know how he is as a starting quarterback. So that's our list, 1 through 28. Again, we didn't do 32 because some teams don't really have starting quarterbacks going into next season. You have Baker at 6. I have Baker at 7. And I know one good place that is a good spot to kind of have these debates and arguments and discussions, and that is walk-ons.
What an amazing comeback, Coach.
You're not kidding. I mean, we did lose the game badly, but coming to walk-ons afterward, the team got a much-needed win off the field.
Walk-ons for the win.
That's right. Walk-ons has happy hour every single day of the week. including Tuesday all-day happy hours, including Tito's. Walk-Ons has TVs galore at this spot, so you can enjoy some great drink deals and some starter deals as well. Delicious appetizers and all of that good stuff. And, of course, the weekend is coming up. It's Thursday, so maybe you want to watch those playoff football games on Saturday and Sunday. They have game day specials as well on the weekend. You can get Michelob Ultra, Bud Light, and Budweiser pints for $4.49. If you want to upgrade to the 22-ounce drinks, those are $5.99. You'd also get some $5 Heineken Silvers and $5 Neutrals with assorted flavors. Over at Walk-Ons, there are 3 in the Tampa Bay area, 1 over in Lakeland, 1 over in Wesley Chapel, and another close to Raymond James Stadium at Midtown. So check out Walk-Ons, have a great time, and just enjoy the overall experience going there. Before we sign off, we'd be remiss if we didn't give a shout-out to all of our Pewter Platinum members. Thank you to Scott Federico, Rathel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Eric McMillan, Zach Jarvis, Hezo813, and Ash Fishpool. Sorry if I missed anyone there, but thank you to all.
And Sam.
And what?
Sam,
Sam, who just became a Pewter Report member. Thank you to Sam as well. We appreciate all of you. We're going to have a Pewter Insider tomorrow at 1:30. We're going to talk about the future of Liam Coen with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is he staying? Is he going? And, of course, the main reason why we do it is to answer questions from you, the Pewter people, questions and comments. Also, a special announcement. So next week, we're going to have 2 episodes on Thursday. We will have our regularly scheduled 4 o'clock Pewter Report podcast with myself and Adam. And then we have a very special 8:30 show coming up that evening as well. That will be Scott Reynolds and Josh Capo talking about who the Bucs are going to target on defense. It's their first mock draft show of the draft season. So for those that love mock drafts, this is the place to be. It will be a primetime show. We're calling it Pewter Primetime. And they'll do their first mock draft at 8:30 on Thursday evening. So still a 4 o'clock show next Thursday, and then another show on top of it at 8:30 for those that can't make the 4 o'clock show but want to join us later in the evening. So those are all of our announcements. Looking forward to it. Going to be a great time. And in the meantime, if you're not already doing so, please follow us on our social media. You can find us at Pewter Report on X, Facebook, and Instagram. And our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment as well. 2 more comments to get to before we leave. There was an unfortunate passing today that came from Mia Sam. Mia says, I'm dedicating my chat comments today to Bob Uecker, RIP. It was the Brewers play-by-play broadcaster, and, of course, had an iconic role in Major League. Was very funny in that role, just a bit outside and all that stuff. So, RIP to Bob Uecker. And,
I remember listening to him growing up on the radio, listening to Brewer games, and just an iconic voice, going, gone, and just everything. Bob Uecker meant so much to baseball, Mr. Baseball, legendary life that he lived.
Yeah, for sure. So RIP to him. Definitely an important figure in the game of baseball. And we'll end it with Leaders Production says, woo, mock season. Yeah, coming up soon.
Yep.
Get excited for it. That'll be Thursday at 8:30. But yeah, a lot of great conversation today. Appreciate everybody for joining us. So for Adam Slavon, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.